In 2009, in Changsha, Hunan provinces, 6 men were found hanging naked, 6 deaths in 1 month, all the same cause. At first, the police thought they were suicides, a coincidence. But then, the pattern emerged. Each man had visited the same website. Each man had read the same ad, a post looking for a submissive playmate. The ad as follows: wanted, aged 23 to 40, round-faced, short-haired, muscular. Someone willing to play breast control games, a reward upon completion, a promising offer, a deadly trap. As the police dug deeper, they found the link. All 6 victims had met the same man. This was a serial murder case. At the beginning of December 2009, Wu Yun, a resident of Weihui, Henan province, received a call from the Changsha police. They told her her husband, Li Jian, had been found dead in the Changsha hotel. They needed her to handle the aftermath. Shock, grief, confusion. Wu Yun couldn't understand. Her husband had told her he was going to Changsha for work. So why did he die in a hotel? With her family by her side, she packed her things, boarded a train to Changsha. At the hotel, the police escorted her to crime scene. The moment she stepped into the small, suffocating room, Li Jian was there, but not as she remembered him. Half naked, a robe around his neck, one end tightened around his throat, the other end looped over the hotel's fire sprinkler. At first glance, it looked like suicide. There were no signs of struggle, no broken furniture, no defensive wounds. Li Jian was not supposed to die, at least not like this. Just days ago, he had promised Wu Yun, "I found a job, a stable one. You don't have to worry about me anymore." Wu Yun sat in the PlayStation, her mind a chaotic maze. Why? Why would he suddenly end his life? He wasn't depressed. He had a wife, he had children. How could he just leave them behind? Earlier that year, Li Jian lost his job. The factory was struggling. Layoffs were inevitable. Since then, he had been at home every day. His only escape? The internet. He spent hours glued to the screen, scrolling, clicking, searching, until something changed. November 25th, Li Jian was suddenly excited, a spark in his eye. He packed his bags, turned to Wu Yun and said, "An old friend of in Changsha found me a job, an accounting position. I leave tomorrow." Wu Yun was relieved. For the first time in months, Li Jian had hope. So she didn't question him. She didn't ask who the friend was. She didn't ask how he found the job. She simply watched him walk out the door. The next day, he arrived in Changsha. That night, he sent her a message. "I met up with my friend. Don't worry." She dialed his number. The phone was off. She told herself maybe his battery died. Maybe he'll call tomorrow. But the next day came. Still no call. Days passed. She felt a growing sense of dread. Just as she was about to report him missing, the police called. Her husband was dead. On the night of November 26, another case surfaced in Changsha's Jiucaiyuan area. A man was found hanging in a guest house. His name was Zhang Xian, a native of Heilongjiang. His death bore an resemblance to that of Li Jian. Discovered just hours earlier, 2 men found dead the same way on the same night, both showing no signs of struggle. The city was in shock. These weren't isolated cases. Police quickly realized that these deaths mirrored 4 other cases that had occurred in the past 2 months. October 11, a 1.8 meter tall, 90-kilogram man found naked and hanging in a hotel in Kaifu district. October 23, a man shirtless and wearing only underwear discovered hanging in a guest house. November 4, in a hotel near Hunan Cultural Market, a 30-year-old man was found naked and lifeless hanging from a rope. November 15, same method, same scene, another man's body found hanging in a hotel on Xianchun Road. From October 11 to November 26, Changsha had witnessed 6 similar deaths. 6 out-of-town men, 6 sudden deaths, no suicide notes, no struggle. With the case now formally linked, police launched a full-scale investigation. Then, a breakthrough clue emerged. The guest house owner where Zhang Xian was found dead provided the lead. She had checked the registration records and discovered that the person who booked the room wasn't Zhang Xian himself. It was a lean, 1.75 meter tall man, appearing to be around 35 years old. The name he left in the records, Wang Gang. In the meantime, at the hotel where Li Jian was found dead, police discovered the same man's presence. Following this lead, They zeroed in on the suspect. They uncovered his real identity. His name was Zhou Youping, born June 1972 in Xiangxiang City, Hunan Province. He was 37 years old at the time and had an older brother and sister. He lived in a rented apartment in Kaifu district. Previously, he had worked as a freelance singer, performing in clubs and entertainment venues. During this period, he adopted the stage name Daijun. In October 2006, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for robbery. With this information in hand, the police tracked him down to his rental apartment and swiftly moved in to arrest him. Surprisingly, when the officers stormed in, Zhou Youping did not resist. He calmly allowed the officers to handcuff him and silently followed them back to the police station. Inside the interrogation room, Zhou Youping admitted to witnessing the deaths of all 6 men. However, he denied committing any crimes. His defense was as follows: "I'm a homosexual with a fetish for sadomasochism. These men died voluntarily while engaging in breast control play with me. I never actually killed them." In September 2009, Zhou Youping posted an ad on a gay website seeking a slave for SM roleplay. His specific criteria were men aged 23 to 14, round face, short hair, strong build, Northern Chinese men willing to engage in breast control play, erotic asphyxiation. As an incentive, he promised the participants a generous payment upon completion. However, in reality, this game involved the victim hanging from a rope, suspended in mid-air until they entered a state of asphyxiation. Zhou Youping openly admitted, "I knew this game was extremely dangerous, so I never played it myself. I just enjoyed watching others do it." Once the ad was posted, a flood of willing participants contacted him. However, he never actually intended to pay them. "I only said that to attract more people," and just like that, his deadly game began. Zhou Youping carefully handpicked his victims from those who responded to his ad. Once he selected a target, he would arrange a meeting and take them to a cheap guest house. Inside the room, he would instruct them to undress and begin the hanging process. While his victims struggled for air, Zhou Youping would sit on the bed, admiring their expressions as they approached death. Once the victims completely stopped moving, he would coldly mutter, "I hate you all for asking me for money." Then he would turn around and leave. As for Li Jian, Zhou admitted, "He never actually asked me for money, but I knew he came to Changsha looking for a stable accountant job that paid thousands a month. That made me resent him." Yet at the same time, Zhou confessed that he had feelings for Li Jian. Watching him suffocate, Zhou said he had a moment of panic. For this particular victim, he even admitted, "I actually felt guilt for what I did to him." Hearing Zhou's confession, the investigators were left in shock. His method of manipulating victims into self-asphyxiation, leading to their death, was as disturbing as it was calculated. Wanting to understand his true motives, the police pressed him further. At first, Zhou refused to answer, reluctant to share his reasoning. However, after multiple rounds of interrogation, he finally opened up. His twisted actions, he claimed, all stemmed from a past betrayal, one that changed him forever. Zhou Youping had always been attracted to men rather than women. Among his past relationship, one particular ex-boyfriend, Feng Yu, was the direct cause of his obsession with watching others engaging in a vexation game. On September 28, 2009, Zhou Youping met Feng Yu, a man from Gansu, through a gay dating website. Feng Yu was 1.8 meters tall, had a round face and short hair, a perfect match for Zhou's preference. Upon meeting, the two found themselves mutually attracted. They decided to book a small guest house near Xichang Street and stayed together. That very night, at Feng Yu's suggestion, Zhou Youping agreed to try an asphyxiation game, his first experience with it. Over the next few days, the two were inseparable, indulging in their newfound pleasure. But on October 4, Zhou Youping made a discovery. That morning, as Feng Yu was still asleep, Zhou peeked inside his bag, and what he found made his blood run cold. It was a medical test result. On the paper, a single line stood out, HIV test, positive. And below it, the name was written clearly, Feng Yu. In that moment, Zhou felt his entire world collapse. He had thought he found someone special, a perfect match, only to realize he had been deceived all along. Feng Yu, despite knowing he was HIV positive, had hidden it from him and stayed with him for days. Panic, anger, and fear of infection surged through Zhou Youping's mind. His trust had been utterly shattered. Unable to control his emotion, he immediately kicked Feng Yu out, forcing him to leave. From that day, Zhou's hatred and resentment toward men who lied to him ultimately twisting into a perverse desire for revenge. Even after being kicked out, Feng Yu refused to leave Zhou Youping alone. He kept calling, insisting that he loved Zhou and that they should be together. Zhou, however, saw these calls as relentless harassment, a reminder of betrayal that fueled his resentment and hatred. On October 9, Feng Yu returned to Changsha, once again seeking reconciliation. This time, Zhou had no intention of forgiving him. Instead, he made a decision. He would kill Feng Yu and end this nightmare for good. That night, Zhou Youping lured Feng Yu to a small guest house near Xichang Street. Under the pretense of playing their usual asphyxiation game, Zhou tied a red rope around Feng Yu's neck. But this time, he didn't let go. With his grip tightening, Zhou watched intentionally as Feng Yu struggled for air, his face contorting, eyes widening in panic, limbs thrashing helplessly, until finally everything went still. At the moment, Zhou felt something beyond relief. It was power. For the first time in his life, he felt in control, the master of someone else's fate. And it thrilled him. From that day forward, killing was no longer just revenge. It became an addiction, an unstoppable craving to watch men struggle and die before his eyes. On October 22, 2009, Zhou Youping arranged to meet another man named Fang. According to Zhou, as soon as they met, the man asked him for 5,000 RMB. This request made Zhou extremely angry, and at that moment, he decided to use the asphyxiation hanging method to kill him. After persuading Fang to hang himself, Zhou sat on the bed and watched him closely. Seeing that Fang remained suspended and showed no signs of movement, confirming his death, Zhou turned around and left the scene. However, through further investigations and interviews with Zhou Youping's relatives and acquaintances, the police discovered that his descent into the past was not solely due to the betrayal he had previously experienced. His traumatic childhood, marked by bullying and humiliation, along with his family's strong opposition to his sexual orientation, played a crucial role in shaping his psychological state and ultimately leading him down this irreversible path. Zhou Youping's grandfather and father were both practitioners of flower drum opera, a traditional Chinese performance art. Growing up in such an environment, Zhou was deeply influenced by the culture surrounding him. His personality was gentle, his voice soft and delicate, setting him apart from the rougher boys in his village. He had no interest in playing with other boys and instead preferred the company of girls. His mannerism, too, was subtly different. His gestures light, his expressions careful, his demeanor often mistaken for feminine. His cousin would sometimes tease him, joking that he was just like a girl. Zhou never denied it. He would only smile and let it pass. By the time he was in the 5th grade, his fair skin and delicate features made him popular among the girls at school. One day, a female classmate invited him for a walk up in the mountain. He thought nothing of it, following her along the path. She suddenly confessed her feeling to him. Panic surged through Zhou's body. He felt his skin crawl, inexplicable fear gripping his chest. Without thinking, he turned and ran, fleeing as if something monstrous was chasing him. From that day on, he began to develop an aversion to women. It wasn't just discomfort, it was pure, unfiltered dread. During middle school, due to his effeminate behavior, Zhou Youping was given the nickname Sissy by his classmates. They also joined forces to bully him. Not only that, on one occasion, he was taken home by his older brother's male classmates to play. Under the guise of doing him a favor, the classmates forced himself on Zhou Youping. These events left a deep scar in his heart and plunged him into a state of shame and fear. The police speculate that this experience might have caused a significant shift in his sexual orientation. Later, he developed an interest in erotic asphyxiation games, which is likely connected to this traumatic incident. In 1989, at the age of 16, Zhou Youping was admitted to an art school in Hunan. He chose to join the flower drum opera class to study. After entering the art school, Zhou Youping discovered his true sexual orientation. However, he never revealed his identity as a homosexual to anyone. In 1994, Zhou Youping's father passed away. People said that his father died from internal bleeding caused by a beating. The death of his father, whom Zhou Youping had always admired, left a deep shadow on him. For a long time after that, Zhou Youping avoided conversations with others. Later, he even dropped out of school. Because he dropped out of school early, Zhou Youping never received a diploma. He couldn't find a stable job. No degree, no prospects. He did what he had to do. He became a runaway singer, performing in bars and nightclubs. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept him afloat. For 8 years, this was his life. 8 years of dimly lit stages, of empty applause, of fleeting moments where he could pretend he was someone else. But at home, reality never let up. His mother wanted him married, wanted grandchildren. She nagged, pushed, demanded. Zhou couldn't take it anymore. So for the first time in his life, he fought back. He told her everything. That he didn't like women, that he never would, that he had already found someone, a man. For Zhou Youping, a man who had spent his entire life hiding, this was the bravest thing that he had ever done. But bravery doesn't always pay off. His mother's face twisted. His sisters screamed at him. Disgust, outrage, betrayal. They begged, they pleaded, they threatened to kill themselves if he didn't change. So he did. Or at least, he let them believe he did. He broke up with his boyfriend. He played the role of the good son. But inside, something was cracking. He never stopped. Instead of fighting love in bars and clubs, he moved online, hidden behind a screen. And that was when he discovered it. SM. Power, control, pain, submission. It fascinated him. The idea of making someone helpless, making them feel like he once had. But there was a problem. The men he met online, they weren't interested. They wanted love, not fear, not pain. Zhou Youping didn't take rejection well. If they wouldn't willingly play along, he'd just have to force them. 2006, Zhou Youping lured his online lover to a hotel. They had never met before. The man arrived, unsuspecting, hopeful, but Zhou Youping had other plans. He dragged him when the man lost consciousness. Zhou took his time. He had studied, read tutorials, watched videos. Now, he wanted to try it for himself. The feeling of complete dominance was intoxicating. The man couldn't fight back, couldn't say no. And when Zhou was done, he didn't just leave. He took everything. 600 RMB in cash, a phone, anything valuable. When the victim woke up, he found himself had been violated, robbed, used, and he wanted justice. He reported Zhou to the police. 3 years in prison. That was the price Zhou Youping paid. But prison didn't fix him. If anything, it made him worse. 2 years into his sentence, Zhou was granted earlier release for good behavior. He walked out of those prison gates a free man, but he wasn't interested in starting over. He was interested in hunting. He no longer cared about singing. He no longer cared about blending in. He immersed himself in the world of online SM. He spent hours in chat rooms, forums, and dating sites, luring men in, testing their limits, fighting the ones who would submit. But submission wasn't enough. In August 2009, he met Feng Yu, a man who would change everything, a man who awakened the killer inside him. And just 1 year after being released from prison, March 29, 2011, the Changsha Intermediate People's Court delivered its verdict. Zhou Youping sentenced to death. Guilty of intentional homicide, stripped of all political rights forever. But Zhou refused to accept his fate. He filed an appeal. His defense? The victims hanged themselves willingly. I didn't force them. I am not a murderer. But the evidence said otherwise. The Human High People's Court reviewed all 6 cases. Only 2 were confirmed. The other 4, not enough proof. But it didn't matter. The death sentence remained. August 29, 2014, Changsha Intermediate People's Court carried out the execution. Zhou Youping, dead. The man who once controlled life and death, now had his own fate sealed. Zhou Youping's story is one of the tragedy and horror. A boy bullied, humiliated, and abused. A youth who lost his father to a senseless killing. A man who sought love only to be met with hatred and rejection. His pain became his obsession. His obsession became his revenge. He turned his deepest scars into a weapon. What started as desire became violence. What began as submission ended in murder. He wanted control. He lost everything. And in the end, the hangman hanged. This is Charles bringing you crime story analysis. If you like this channel, please like, subscribe, and turn off the notification button. Have a case you want me to dig in and share, leave a message on the comment section. I will see you next time.